Let's be honest. Every few years, immigrants hear the same promise. Comprehensive immigration reform is coming. It's repeated in speeches, echoed across media, and packaged as hope for millions of people trying to build stable lives. And yet, every few years, nothing truly changes in a meaningful or lasting way. The headlines fade, the urgency disappears, and the system continues as it always has. But 2026 feels different, not because the system is becoming kinder or more humane, but because it is becoming quieter, stricter, and far more calculated. No dramatic press conferences are announcing sweeping reforms. No historic bill moving boldly through Congress. Instead, immigration is being reshaped behind the scenes through enforcement priorities, processing delays, legal interpretations, and subtle but powerful bureaucratic pressure. And history teaches us something very important. When systems change quietly, diaspora communities are often the first to feel the consequences. This video is not about fear. It is about clarity. Because in the immigration system, ignorance is expensive. Welcome to Global Diaspora Watch. If this is helping you see things differently, subscribe, share this with someone who needs it, and drop a comment. The first uncomfortable truth the diaspora must confront is this. The United States has moved away from reform and toward management. This is not a temporary shift, it is a structural reality. Instead of fixing immigration, the system is now focused on managing numbers: who enters, who stays, who waits, and who quietly disappears from the system altogether. This approach is not accidental. It is intentional. Immigration reform is politically risky. It requires bold decisions, clear positions, and the willingness to face backlash. But enforcement and delays, those are politically safe. They operate in the background, often unnoticed, yet deeply impactful. For many in the diaspora, this creates a dangerous illusion that nothing has changed. Life continues, applications are filed, and processes move slowly. But beneath that surface, everything has changed. Longer wait times are not administrative mistakes. They are part of the system's design. Higher denial rates are not random. They reflect stricter interpretations applied quietly. What appears to be inefficiency is, in many cases, policy without being labeled as policy. And when immigration becomes invisible in public discourse, accountability disappears with it. The system no longer needs to explain itself because it no longer presents itself as changing. When a system shifts from reform to management, it also shifts responsibility. The burden moves away from policymakers and lands squarely on immigrants themselves. You are expected to navigate complexity, absorb uncertainty, and adapt without complaint. This is where many in the diaspora are caught off guard, not because they are uninformed, but because they are misled by silence. The absence of loud change is interpreted as stability, when in reality it signals transformation. If you are part of the diaspora, this is the moment to stop assuming that time will fix the system. Time, in this context, is often the very tool used to control it. As we move into the reality of border and asylum changes in 2026, the shift becomes even more visible. Asylum has never been easy, but it has always carried the promise of protection for those in genuine danger. Today, that promise feels increasingly distant. The system now operates on a new assumption. If your case is not immediately clear, it is likely not valid. What does that mean in practice? It means faster screenings, fewer opportunities to appeal decisions, less patience for complex trauma-based cases, and significantly higher expectations for documentation. The timeline has compressed, but the burden of proof has expanded. And this creates a dangerous imbalance. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The asylum system is no longer centered on asking whether you are in danger. It is focused on whether you can prove that danger quickly, clearly, and convincingly, often under extreme pressure. This disproportionately affects the most vulnerable people, those who are poor, those who do not speak English fluently, those without access to legal representation, and those whose trauma makes it difficult to tell a consistent, linear story. These are not small barriers. They are systemic disadvantages built into the process. In many ways, asylum is no longer about justice. It is about administrative efficiency. And efficiency, historically, has never favored immigrants. It favors speed, simplicity, and cases that fit neatly into predefined categories. When a system prioritizes efficiency over humanity, it begins to filter out not just weak cases, but complex ones. And human suffering is rarely simple. The diaspora must recognize that relying on the moral strength of your case is no longer enough. Preparation, documentation, and legal awareness have become survival tools. At this point, if you are finding value in this breakdown, take a moment to support the work being done here. Subscribe to Global Diaspora Watch. Share this video with someone who needs it, and leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences. This is how we build a community that stays informed and protected together. Turning to international students, we encounter another layer of contradiction. International students are marketed globally as the best and brightest, welcomed into prestigious institutions, and encouraged to contribute academically and financially. But in policy terms, they are increasingly treated as potential overstayers. This duality defines their experience. On one hand, they are valued for their tuition, often paying 2 to 3 times more than domestic students. On the other hand, they are monitored closely, with little tolerance for mistakes and growing suspicion around their long-term intentions. Visa refusals have increased. Service enforcement has become more aggressive. Minor administrative errors can now carry significant consequences, and post-graduation plans are scrutinized more intensely than ever. Let's call this what it is. The system benefits from international students' presence, but resists their permanence. Students from Africa and other parts of the global South often carry a heavier burden. They invest financially, emotionally, and academically, only to face constant uncertainty about their future. They are navigating a system that profits from their ambition, but limits their opportunities to stay and contribute long-term. This creates a cycle where value is extracted without security being offered in return. If you are an international student, you must stop thinking of your education as a guaranteed pathway to stability. It is an opportunity, but one that exists within a system designed to keep options limited. Awareness changes how you plan, how you prepare, and how you protect your status. The goal is not to discourage ambition, but to align it with reality. When we examine work visas and employment-based immigration, the theme of conditional value becomes even clearer. In 2026, holding a work visa comes with an unspoken warning. Your value is tied to your utility, and that utility can change at any moment. Employers are facing increased audits. Workers are receiving more requests for evidence. Job mobility has become riskier, and layoffs are no longer just professional setbacks. They are immigration emergencies. One email, one restructuring decision, one unexpected shift in the market can disrupt an entire life built over years. There is a deep irony here. The US economy depends heavily on immigrant labor across multiple sectors: technology, healthcare, logistics, education, and beyond. Yet the system treats these workers as temporary tools rather than long-term contributors. Skilled professionals are often told to be grateful for the opportunity to work in the country. But gratitude does not equal security. Many immigrants live in a constant state of controlled uncertainty, where stability feels temporary and conditional. This is not a system designed for comfort. It is designed for flexibility, on the employer's side, not the workers. If you are part of the professional diaspora, you must think beyond employment. You must think in terms of risk management. What happens if your job disappears? What are your alternatives? How quickly can you respond? These are not hypothetical questions anymore. They are necessary considerations. The conversation around green cards, backlogs, and family separation brings us to one of the most emotionally complex aspects of the system. Permanent residency used to symbolize arrival, stability, and the beginning of a secure future. In 2026, it often represents waiting. Backlogs continue to grow. Family reunification processes slow down. Children age out of eligibility, and lives remain in a state of suspension for years, sometimes decades. This is not just administrative delay, it is time taken from people's lives. Families are separated not because of immediate danger, but because of systemic inefficiency and lack of urgency. Parents miss milestones. Children grow up apart from loved ones. Relationships are maintained through screens instead of shared spaces. And all of this unfolds within a system that demands patience, obedience, and strict compliance, while offering little transparency in return. Time is one of the most valuable resources any person has, and the immigration system often consumes it without accountability. For the diaspora, understanding this reality is essential. It changes how you plan your life, your relationships, and your expectations. Waiting is not neutral. It has consequences. As we move into deportation and enforcement, we confront one of the most persistent myths in the immigrant community: I'm not a priority. This belief is comforting, but it is also dangerous. Enforcement in 2026 does not always arrive loudly or dramatically. It does not always involve visible raids or public displays. Instead, it often operates quietly through data sharing, digital tracking, historical record reviews, and administrative decisions. A past violation that seemed insignificant can resurface years later. A routine travel experience can trigger unexpected scrutiny. A renewal application can become a point of vulnerability. The system does not forget, it waits. And when it acts, it often does so without explanation. This creates a sense of unpredictability that is difficult to navigate. You may feel secure one moment and uncertain the next, not because your situation has changed, but because the system has decided to act. Understanding how enforcement works allows you to make more informed decisions. It encourages caution where necessary and preparation where possible. Ignoring the system does not make it less powerful, it makes you more vulnerable. In the political arena, immigrants are discussed constantly, yet rarely consulted. Immigration remains a central topic in debates, campaigns, and policy discussions. But the voices of those most affected are often absent. Both major political parties benefit from immigrant labor, yet neither consistently prioritizes immigrant security. Immigration is debated not always to be solved, but often to be used as a tool, as a talking point, as a dividing line. This creates a gap between policy and lived experience. Decisions are made about the diaspora without meaningful input from the diaspora. And until there is a stronger political organization and engagement within immigrant communities, this pattern is likely to continue. The diaspora cannot afford to remain politically passive. Engagement does not guarantee immediate change, but absence guarantees continued exclusion. Representation begins with participation, and participation begins with awareness. Finally, we come to what the diaspora must do. The reality of 2026 demands realism. It requires a shift in mindset. Assume delays. Assume scrutiny. Assume responsibility for understanding your situation. Not because immigrants are at fault, but because the system is indifferent. It does not adapt to your needs. You must adapt to its structure. Preparation is no longer optional, it is essential. Information is not paranoia, it is protection. The more you understand, the better positioned you are to navigate challenges, avoid mistakes, and make strategic decisions. And this brings us to the conclusion. The US immigration system is not broken. It is functioning exactly as designed to extract labor, limit permanence, and manage numbers. That reality may be difficult to accept, but it is necessary to understand. Because in 2026, survival does not belong to the hopeful, it belongs to the informed. If this video gave you clarity, take a moment right now to support Global Diaspora Watch. Subscribe to the channel, share this video with your network, and leave a comment below. Your engagement helps this information reach more people who need it. Stay informed, stay aware, and most importantly, stay protected.